So what is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning back in. Today we are going to look if you can get a nice 35mm lens for not much money. So if you're interested in this, stay tuned. So thank you everybody for tuning back in. This actually is the second lens review in the same kind of area. So about a 35mm lens you can get for not a lot of money, and the question remains if there are hidden gems within those. So today we are going to look at the Auto Revuenon 35mm f2.8. So there are quite a lot of different lenses that are labeled Auto Revuenon with a 35mm focal length. They are all quite different, and mine is from the company called Chinon. It was produced by them and labeled Auto Revuenon, and it was sold over one of the biggest trading markets and trading centers of Eastern Germany, called Quelle. So let's firstly talk a bit about Chinon. They were a Japanese camera manufacturer, and in Germany we got those products under the Photoporst name. And in the trading company Quelle, they labeled them Revue. They also produced for Agfa some of their cameras, and for the American warehouse Sears. So you can call them quite a big camera producer, but they were not labeling their stuff under their own name. There are a few things that are called Chinon, but not a lot of them are around anymore. Yeah, so they were mainly known for producing for other manufacturers. So let's talk about the specifications of this lens. It's a 35mm and it goes from f2.8 all the way back to f22. It has 6 aperture blades, and the focusing goes all the way to 0.5 meters, which is 1.7 feet. It weighs quite astonishingly 243 grams, and it has a filter size of 55mm, and it mounts with M42. So let's talk about the haptics and the build quality of this lens. The haptic feedback of this lens is really quite positive. Mine looks like new, so it looks like it has never been used. By the way, I didn't buy it by its own, it was a trade, so I've got a lot of different lenses and this one went with it. Yes, so it's completely built out of metal. The only thing that's not metal is the strap around the focusing ring, but which also has quite a nice feedback. I really do like it. Focusing works quite nice, it's smooth all the way from 0.5 to meters to infinity, and the aperture ring clicks every half step into place. All in all, really quite a pleasant feeling. One thing that is quite a bit odd is if you go from f2.8 to f3.5, so in between f2.8 and f4, you get quite an interesting star, which looks like a saw blade, which you really do have to like in the bokeh. I'm not that big of a fan of it. It's a bit of an oddity. But to sum it up, the haptics and the build quality, the material quality of this lens are really, really, really great. And you get them for like 30 bucks. By the way, I've sold mine already for 30 bucks. So now we want to have a look at the optical qualities. That's the really main part of buying a lens, is to have a look at the optics, if they are good or not. So we are right at the start of December, so I've done a little shoot indoors. It was quite rainy that day, but we have nice subjects as well. So let's have a look at those pictures. They are all done in RAW, and I have done a little bit of shadow lifting because my camera went too dark, but that's not an issue. So let's have a look. what can we see from this picture? Right here, I do like the way the color renders in this picture. I really do. This warm glow, it was really like in the situation. It's really identical to the real situation. So let's have a look at this little guy. Let's zoom in all the way to 100%, and now we can see a thing or two. The first thing I see is right here we see haloing, which I'm not a big fan of. So let's have a look at other parts. So if we get into focus, here right in the center, by the way, we are at f2.8. This is okay for f2.8, not great, but really okay-ish. I'm not a fan of the haloing. You can see it in those hairs as well. Not a big fan of that. But I do like the way the bokeh is rendering right here, and the colors of this lens are great. So let's have a look at this one. In this picture there's quite a few interesting things. Number one is we have quite harsh contrasting edges. So let's have a look at those. If we go up here, we have a tiny bit of chromatic aberration, but not really problematic. Let's have a look at how the foreground bokeh is rendered. Maybe let's zoom a bit out. And I do have to say I like the foreground bokeh. I'm not a big fan of the background bokeh in this shot. The main problem being that the structures around here are really prominent in this picture. So let's go up here. You see it. It doesn't really melt away, so you can see the harsh contrasting edges. Yeah, not a big fan of that. But the mood, and that's quite important for all of the photography I've done. The mood is really well captured. Another thing that I'm noticing right here, have a look at this edge, have a look at this edge, have a look at this edge, and have a look at this edge. What you can see right here is a big vignette. That's okay in pictures like that, in moody pictures, but if you're trying to do architectural stuff and stuff like that, or landscape, you really don't want those kind of things happening, and it's really bad right around here. So not a big fan of the vignette. So let's have a look at this picture. I do like those kind of pictures because you can see quite a lot of the lens in here and the characteristics of the lens. And here you really can see the harsh vignette. This is really bad. Haven't seen such a bad one in quite a while. Another thing that we can see if we zoom right in, have a look at the sharpness fall off. It's unusable in this space, and we are not even at the far edge. So if you go in the other direction, you can see the fall off as well. That's quite a big fall off. So you have good sharpness in the center, but the rest is really bad. Let's have a look at those contrasting edges. I'm happy about that. Not many chromatic aberrations. That's nice. Another thing you can see is, if we go right here, can you see the upper edge and the lower edge? You can see distortion, and it's really quite prominent in this shot. We have barrel distortion. So yes. In this picture you can see the sharpness fall off quite well as well. So if you go in the center, we are quite good, quite nice. Sharpness is good, sharpness is great. And up here it's appalling. It's really appalling. Yeah, so not really happy about the results. I do like the colors, I do like the center sharpness, so it's great for stuff like this. The vignette is really bad, and the sharpness fall off to the corners is really bad as well. So it's quite a mixed bag. So let's sum this lens up. I really do like the haptics and I really do like the material qualities. It's a really well built lens with good haptical qualities. Really nice at that point. Even if you especially if you consider it just cost 30 bucks. At the optical side of things, they start to get a little bit messy. The sharpness is good right in the center, and it has a really harsh fall off to the sides, so sharpness at the sides is really bad. And what's really bad as well is the vignetting. So what you can do is use it for macro stuff and stuff like that, like I've showed you already in this in those pictures. It's great for that. Color science is great, and color rendition is great. Not that much chromatic aberration, but the sharpness fall off and the corner vignetting is really bad. So it's once again, you get what you pay for, and if you just use it for those few things, you get great pictures. But all in all, for an all-rounder lens, I wouldn't consider buying this. Thank you so much for tuning back in and have a good one. Goodbye.